boom doom boom boo. Boop doo boo doo boop. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is JH. How y'all doing, Postal family? Is everybody good? Is everybody cool? Everybody clean? Are you crisp? Are you feeling irie today? Let's chat, shall we? First, as I like to always do, is say hello to whomever decided to drop by and say hello. First, I'd like to say Shy, hello. A Dubs, what's going on? Mailman Matt, how you doing? Maurice, what's going on? Amanda. Stormy Zuma, hello. Your Chooch, what's going on? Uh, Tony, what's your name? Get it? Anyway, Tramisha, what's going on? We are definitely broke. The Red, what's going on? Hey, how you doing, Oscar? What's going on, buddy? Vernon, hey yo. Nathan, what's good? Y'all got a lot of people. It's just I can't pronounce some of those names. I'm not really good at reading. It's not really my thing. They're just flying. The screen is way low over there. Yeah, if I missed your name, I apologize. Chooch said, "You sorry you can't be on. You are sorry. Invisible. I can't see you. You get it, John C. Never mind that. Let's go. Let's toast media. I can't read that. Anyway, Jay, tip your supervisors. That's right. You definitely need to. I like that, A Dub. Tip your supervisors. I'll give them a tip. All right. Charlene, listen. Tonight, it might get interesting. I got my man's JM, not JH, John Murphy from Next Gen. Letter Carriers coming on. We're going to talk about what he wants to talk about today. I believe he wants to talk about mismanagement of shmoney and whatever else it is. The mismanagement that everybody's dealing with. He has a slogan 30 for 30. And if I'm not mistaken, hold on. This is the May 22nd nationwide day of action. And a lot of carriers are asking the same question right now. Mr. Murphy, is anything actually going to change or there's more talk? We're going to find out about this right here. So, John, I appreciate your comings on. Some people watching know exactly who you are, and some people don't. So, real quick, please give them the short version. Why did you start the Next Gen, and what are you trying to fix inside this postal service, my friend?
Yeah, my name is John Murphy. I'm a city letter carrier out of Naples, Florida. I'm a member of Branch 4716. Um, I joined the union a couple of years ago because I moved down here from Massachusetts, where I was very involved with the labor movement up there. I was in the Carpenters Union, and then I moved on to trying to organize a grocery store worker union with the UFCW. So we moved down here, and I was like, all right, let me get back with the union, right? They always say live better, work union. And then I go to my union meeting, try to get involved, and I kept saying not right now, right? So I was like, well, that's not who I am. I like to be doing something, right? That's like the labor movement is my hobby, right? People read comic books or watch comics. Some people watch sports, play sports. I read labor and I try to organize. So my branch kind of pushed me to the sidelines, as you see what a lot of branches doing across the country, the table two carriers. I'm step D. I got hired in June 2021.
Okay.
So I was just like, yo, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna start educating people. And Corey Walton from Raid Arbitration, he gave me a shout out when I did a YouTube channel, just doing a basic route protection program, just going down the steps, right? Your morning functions, your out to street functions, and your PM office time functions. And it caught on. And then next thing I know, I reached out to a couple other people like, hey, I want to actually start a real podcast. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, just a heads up, we're probably going to get blacklisted because we're going to go against the grain. And they're like, okay, let's do it. So we started it, and our first interview was like very, very rocky, right? We interviewed an Amazon worker from New York that went on strike during Christmas a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And then next thing we know, Mike Cariff came on. The next thing we know, James Henry came on. The next thing we know, Brian Renfro came on. And we developed a big following. And it's like, wow, that's crazy. So right now, like the contract negotiations going on again. And the previous time it took 700 days. And it's like a lot of people don't even realize how long that was, right? You can talk, if you're a city carrier, you talk to your coworkers and like, oh, the 300 days, that's normal. 500 days, that's normal. But once the guys started getting to 700 days, they're like, maybe the structure is not that great. And like me and James Capone, my co-host, were talking about the other day, it's like we have such a big following, and we've inspired so many people, right? Like we're always getting emails, we're getting phone calls, and they're like, "Thank you for what you're doing." And I'm like, "I'm literally like I'm not even a steward. I carry mail 5 days a week, about 10 to 12 hours a day. Like I'm just talking. I'm just want to put the movement back into labor movement, and like me and Capone are like, I wonder if we could mobilize people, right? Like we can't sit on the sidelines anymore. And our national association of letter carriers, our national administration, don't want to go after management, right? That's why we have a labor, right? Like we're not friends with management, or else there's no need for a labor movement, right?
Right.
So we put out the call the other day for May 22nd, and I didn't think anything of it, right? Because a month ago, I was saying 30 for 30, right? You always hear like, oh, I want a $30 star wage per hour. And then the bureaucracy of the labor movement of our union is, well, what are you willing to give up? And I'm like, we've given up everything. What's left to give up? We're losing people, right? Like city carriers that have been in this craft for like 6 years, 7 years are quitting, right? Like that
Right.
never used to happen. Like you used to be like, I got hired, I'm staying, this is it. But now we're seeing less veterans apply. We're seeing less veterans retain this job. So I'm saying we don't give up anything. We give up management. And people are like, what?
Mm.
And it's like, why don't we go on the offense? We're always playing defense. Under Postmaster Joy, management increased. There's currently 14,000 workers at USPS headquarters.
Shit.
There's currently 14,000 postmasters. And for every postmaster, there's 2 supervisors, right? Like there's 28,000, 27,000 supervisors. So if you break it down for supervisor to city carrier, currently there's 1 to every 7 city carriers. In the 1990s, there was 1 supervisor for every 21 city carriers. So management got bloated over the course of 30 years, tripled
Right.
within 30 years. But our mail volume has been going down, down, down. So the question is, it's like, at what point do we address this issue? Because we are a public good. We serve our customers are the ones that pay us, right? If
Right.
you
Right.
get your paycheck stub and you look at the back of it, it says paid by the customers. And we need it. We need to take a stand. And like I said, I'm step D. I'm not willing to wait 700 days for a 1% wage increase, because a lot of people that have been here for decades are like, oh, that's our normal thing. And it's like, it shouldn't be normalized. Poverty wages shouldn't be normalized. And to everyone that's listening, right? Like I'm step D. I don't see myself ever getting off the overtime desire list as a city carrier. It's like I'm stuck on this until I make top step, which is in about 12 years, 11 years for me.
Shit. I got.
And it's like,
Can I
it's,
jump in for a second? I heard you say something earlier, and I wanted to chime in. You mentioned that when people reach out to you and they're thanking you, you said, "I'm nobody." Um, that's not the case. You are somebody, and it's not me trying to hype you up. But when you become a voice that people can identify with, that's where you become somebody. You're not always going to get a bunch of love fan mail, obviously, but you have a voice. When I hear somebody or I see somebody that is saying something that I've been thinking, that I've been feeling, that I never knew somebody 2,000 miles away from me is feeling the same exact way or experiencing the same exact thing, and they have the cojones to say it out loud. Yes, you are somebody. So don't try to minimize who you are or what it is your labor movement and what you guys are doing as to I'm nobody. You guys are, because I just talk shit for for everybody, but you guys have a specific group that you guys are trying to be a voice for. So yeah, you guys are somebody. Don't ever feel less than that. And it puts a little more pressure on you because more eyes are on you, but start feeling like, hey, yeah, I'm doing something. That's all I want to say. Continue, my friend. Continue. I just
Yeah.
wanted to let you know that. Correct you on your own statement there, brother.
Well, I like to try to relate with the rank and file, right? Because I'm part of the rank and file, and within the NALC, you kind of have to be a brown noser or your principles to move up.
Mm,
And we've seen that for decades, right? And I think that's why there's movements like the Concerned Letter Carriers, Slate, there's Mike Cariff. All these people are now currently running for a union office. But one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard was from Eugene Debs. It's, when I rise, I will rise with the ranks, not from the ranks. And that's what I'm very about. I said it 2 weeks ago when Brian Renfro was on our podcast, the Next Generation Carriers podcast.
hmm
Um, the union is as strong as the weakest link. So if we're continuously losing people and leaving them behind, our labor union is no longer strong. And I want to keep that balance, right? I want to keep that thing. And because it's a fact. It's a fact with every labor union across the country. The more you remove yourself from the workroom floor, the more distance you create and the more you become friends with management and start isolating marginalized people. I want to say this as an example. I'm down here in Naples, Florida. Most people probably don't know where Naples, Florida is, but
Big retirement area.
it's a bunch of white people retiring here for 4 months a year, then they go back north. But I have a female letter carrier who's a black and she's Muslim.
hmm
And the other day she had an incident on on her route outside delivering mail, and our supervisor did nothing, our steward did nothing, and our branch president just kind of dismissed it until we actually started like being vocal. And what it is that that steward is isolated. He doesn't work in our section of town. Our branch president doesn't work in our office. That supervisor just thinks we're lying all the time, right? Like you
hmm
could be a mail handler, you could be a clerk, you could be carriers, rural or city. We all know how management is, right? Like they just constantly are bred to think we're lying to them. So like this city carrier had an incident and no one really took it seriously other than the people next to her because we relate, right? So
Right.
think of that on like a bigger scale, right? Like once you get out of the office and once you go to regional or national, you start you don't have that rapport, you don't have that connection with the rank and file. So that's why I'm always like, I'm no one, right? Like I'm just like you. You could do the same thing.
hmm
Um, like anyone that's listening at this point, this is why I say I'm no one. Our office is entitled to two stewards, and we have one. And my coworkers signed a petition. I think it was like 90% of my office. We have like 60 routes. Most of them signed on to a petition on making me a steward, and I'm still not a steward, right? Like it's called gatekeeping,
Oh,
right? Or
gatekeeping. Oh,
blacklisting.
absolutely.
Um, so like the majority of my members in my office want me to be their representative, but I'm not. So when I say I'm just like you, I'm literally just like
Mm,
you.
mm.
Um, we're in this struggle together, and this is why I put out the 30 for 30, and this is why I think it's kind of growing because you got someone like me willing to challenge management, right? And we're moving forward with a day of action. We originally put out like May 22nd. That's the day the contract expires. But others said, let's vote on it because they want to do Saturday, May 23rd, which also makes sense. So this Sunday, March 15th, we're having an organizers meeting. And anyone that wants to get involved, this goes across all crafts. Go to nextgenerationcarriers.com/Zoom and sign up for the Zoom registration.
That's
Um,
next generation
carriers.com slash
carriers.com.
Zoom.
One of my people in here will write that for me. Hold on. Mike, can you please type that in the comment section, Mike? Nextgenerationcarriers.com/Zoom
Zoom, ZOOM.
/Zoom, and I'll pin the comment.
Thank you. Because it's like the mail handlers, I don't know if there's any mail handlers that are listening to this. Hopefully they are. Your contract is still in negotiations as the city carriers are currently in negotiations. And the post office loves that we're divided. But the one thing that really unites us is the mismanagement.
Whew. Let me get
And
to that. Let me get to that.
okay,
Because I know that if you read comments, man, the carriers are just tired. Because the morale is damn near in the basement. And just like you said, the people feel like nobody's listening anymore until people like yourself and other people they can relate to come on and talk about it. But I can only talk about it. You this is your craft. But the elephant in the room is obviously the mismanagement. And the carriers know what you're talking about, but I want you to explain from what you hear on your end. You get different emails than I do from across the country. Just, I mean, you ain't got to say nobody's name, but what's your what's the worst example, in your opinion, of management failures that you're hearing about right now?
I think the most current example goes up to all the CCAs. The USPS is on a hiring spree to get rid of all this overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm going to tie this into two things, right? So fiscal year 2024, USPS paid out $5.2 billion in overtime. Out of that 5 billion, 600 million was in penalty.
Ooh,
So you have outrageous penalty, outrageous overtime, and then you have 60% of the workforce quitting. So what they thought of this year was, you know what, we're just going to go on a hiring spree and we're going to get rid of overtime and we're going
mhm.
to keep a retention rate. So across the country, they're going on a hiring spree, hiring CCAs,
I'm
but we have
aware.
no vehicles. We have no vehicles. So I, I guarantee you in the comment section, you'll hear this like, yes,
Hmm.
CCAs will be coming in at like 9 o'clock. Oh, please wait for a vehicle, a rural route. It's come back in an hour. Just hang tight. Okay, you're scheduled to come in at 3:30 because that carrier did a no watch punch. So you're only going to come in for 4 hours. So I think that's one of the biggest things of mismanagement, right?
Right.
You're spending all this money to hire all these people to get rid of overtime, but they're going to end up quitting because there's no vehicles. They're waiting around their office, or they're just waiting, working 4 hours a day from 3:30 till 7. And it's like, how can you pay your bills?
They can't pay their bills.
So instead of worrying about the double time and the overtime you're spending, buy minivans. So like down here in Florida and across the southern states, there's a lot of parking loops and CBU cluster block units
Mhm.
where you can go and just deliver to one big apartment complex with like 800 mailboxes at one go. And you can just pull up in a minivan, right? You don't need an official USPS LLV or FFV, but like they put the cart before the horse, and it's or the horse before the cart in this situation. So it's like I think that's the strongest case of mismanagement there because I'm down here in Florida. I can't speak for the Northeast, but I have people calling me from Michigan, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts about how the windows of operation is only making carriers deliver mail for 8 hours and bring everything back. And I see up in New York
Yes,
City, people are filling out the 1571. So if anyone that is listening and you're instructed to bring back mail, fill out the 1571. And if your supervisor that's closing doesn't even know what that is, call your steward, call your branch president, because you do not want to bring back flat spurs and DPS and not have that accounted for, because the OIG might just show up that next day and ask why you brought all that mail back, and your supervisor is going to throw you under the bus. But I think that's another case of mismanagement, right?
hmm,
And I think I'm speaking in a personal capacity on this one. I think it's deliberate because we just saw with the Supreme Court coming out saying you can't be sued if your mail is being obstructed by like you don't put up a
right.
mailbox or your apartment complex didn't get cluster box units. And that's what the Supreme Court was saying. But we know USPS management loves to mess around with facts, and they're saying like, "Oh, that's a good reason to delay mail." And I think tying that Supreme Court case in with what happened up in the Northeast with snow, it's
Hmm.
creating the normalcy of just bring everything back at 8, windows of operation. And I would say that's mismanagement, but I think that's management purposely trying to ruin our service. And I think everyone, clerks, carriers, and mail handlers need to be concerned about that because every year our customer support keeps going down, down, down. And they're the only reason why we get a good contract. It's not because we work hard, because we do work hard and we're making poverty wages. So, like, once you get rid of the customer support, there's no threat of anything, right? Like the
Right.
USPS board of governors could just walk in and be like, "Well, your organization now is going down to 5 days a week, or that health your annual leave and sick leave. You guys are being too greedy as a union members. We're going to put that as paid time off, and all you non-union workers that have spouses, that's how it is out there, right?
Right.
You get one pool, one amount, paid time off, and that's your sick and annual. So we know this is going to happen eventually. And to me, if you connect the dots and read in between the lines, I think this is the year where they're going to start coming after us as another 2013. So I think every postal worker needs to be aware of that.
So you're 30 for 30. You're break it down a little more simpler, just for a layman person like me on the outside, so I could kind of understand that. What does that actually mean? And
All
why
right.
why should the carriers care about that? When you guys come up with your actual day, whether it's the 22nd or 21st or what day it is, why should they want to participate?
Yeah, the 30 for 30, right? It's $30 an hour starting wage. And I'm down here in Florida, and this is, the cheap area to live in, and we can't hire anyone. Um, Years ago, there used to be an exam. I remember watching YouTube videos, websites, doing pre-exams
Mhm.
before going to do this exam because like you had to pass this or else you had no luck.
Right.
But now now it's like, oh, let's go into this nursing home and anyone that has a pulse, we're gonna give a uniform to all across the country. So 30 for 30 is $30 an hour starting wage.
Hmm.
And the 30 other part, 30 for 30 is one manager for every 30 carriers. So we need to reduce the management
Oh.
to afford the $30 an hour. And you go across every office, every post office. You go in the morning, there's two bosses, right? I don't care if you call them a manager or a supervisor or a postmaster. That's still a boss. A boss is a boss. And you go in there and you're like, why are you here? Right? Like, why do we need this management? And they go around for 5 minutes a day, like to get you time estimates, like try to rush you out of the office. And then they go and sit on a nice cushion chair and they go on TikTok and they end up watching us from the previous day on TikTok, making TikTok posts. And then they go out for lunch for 3 hours and they come back at 2 o'clock to start making sure that we're all okay.
So you
So
think
the idea is,
that they're adding micromanagement and it's costing them money? 'Cause
yeah,
that's my opinion, but this is on you. I think
I think I think PMG just Steiner just came out talking about that in his like management's too heavy. It's creating too much micromanagement, right? Like you don't need this much micromanagement. And like I said, Postmaster DeJoy actually increased management across the board. But how under that plan, right, delivering for America,
mhm,
his idea was to shrink post offices, right? Like to make one big mega centers all across this thing. But
right.
under that plan, somehow we ended up with more bosses. And it's like
They're still
someone
hiring.
at some yeah, there's a supervisor like hiring event everywhere across this country right now. And it's wild. So I think we need to tie it in with technology because I was talking to a rural carrier the other day. He's up there in Washington State. And he was trying to describe to me how the rural carriers work, and he's pretty much saying like everything's through the scan of technology, right? Like if a letter's upside down, you have to type it into the thing to get credit, and it works with the rec system. I'm like, that's a foreign language to me. But I agree, management is, and I agree. I was like, management is bloated and it's not really needed, right? For an example, if a manager didn't show up tomorrow and we all showed up, the mail would get delivered, right? Like, we don't need a manager to tell us how to case our mail and what time we need to leave. We're going to leave the office when we leave the office.
Oof.
And that's what the rural carrier was saying. Like, with them being so data driven on the rec system, that even the rural carriers agree a lot more that than the city carriers that management at this point is getting obsolete with technology that we have. So
Damn. Damn. Is it me freezing up? I'm wondering, am I freezing up over here? Maybe it's just what I'm seeing on here. I never looked at it that way. You might give me a video. I'm that troublemaker. But wow, you got me thinking. I do see that they are putting a lot of posts out for management, EAS positions, etc. Um, I really didn't understand it. You know, I still don't get it, and I believe they all started about 80K a year. And I got a video that I recorded earlier today that's coming out tomorrow in regards to some of the things you're talking about, but a little different twist to it. But this ain't about me. It's not about me. So the question that is, people that are watching, shit, I like the idea. I, I'm surprised I didn't think of that. See, that's why I got the young people doing it. People that are watching, they're pretty skeptical about anything now. Younger people are mentally skeptical about anything. And a lot of them think, they heard certain promises before. Um, so I'm a kind of try to figure out a question that they may be asking. Uh,
well, the biggest thing you hear is, "Oh, nothing's going to change because Brian Renfro's in charge of the contract negotiations again, right?"
mhm.
And
No, no,
we're
I'm
going
I'm
to
talking
be,
about with what you got going on from your perspective. If your 30 for 30 idea doesn't gain traction, what's the next move? I'm gonna follow it up with this for you to think about. For anybody that is thinking that, why aren't y'all coming up with some ideas yourself? Because if their group came up with that, which makes total sense to me, and I like it, but you got to try something and fail. You'd rather try something and fail at it than to say, "Oh, we just let it go." So go ahead, answer the question, my man's.
yeah, no, it's a valid thing. I've been talking to people all week, past 2 weeks about this, right? Like, they're like, "Oh, my office won't come out," because the idea, again, for anyone that's in the postal service, what we're talking about here is creating informational picket lines before we clock in, out of our uniform. Before we clock in,
Mm,
we set up informational picket lines with signs that say 30 for 30, save USPS from mismanagement, and first class service is first class pay. And a lot of people are like, well, what's that going to accomplish? And it will actually accomplish, I think, a lot of things. One, it encourages members to actually fight, to get out there. And I say this because it's 2026, the midterm elections are coming up. Our politicians want our money, but they also want our vote. And the politicians, if we do this right across the country, not only the call to action is to do informational pickets before we clock in, but to also sign petitions and letters to our Congress people, right? We want our Congress people to tap on the doors of the USPS Board of Governors. And I don't think any real labor union has, and our postal unions, the four postal unions, I don't think they really talk about the USPS Board of Governors. They always talk about Doug Tolino, and the postmaster, but there's a whole controlling network of Board of Governors.
mhm.
And we need to tell our politicians to go talk to those people about what are they doing to correct this mismanagement. I think that's one thing, because if you get some politicians involved, things change, right?
Yeah.
You can look up branch 3, Buffalo, New York. David Grosskopf, he mobilized his politicians, his community, and they shut down a proposed S&DC center. And like, Buffalo's a big hub because it does the traffic between United States and Canada. So
Canada.
the idea was like, we're going to create an SNDC up there, but he mobilized. He mobilized and got his politicians on board because it's like, if you guys don't back us, we're letter carriers. Not only do we have ourselves, but we have our family and our friends. And if we go against you, that's a lot of people that you're going to lose support in. So that's one avenue. The other avenue is our customers, right? Our customers love us. We might have 800 to 1,400 customers on our own routes as city carriers. And if you could even get 10 of those people to mobilize for you to like, hey, come save my job, we're having a rally or something like that, they will turn up for you. And that's public pressure. Like I said, it's midterm elections, right? And plus the post office doesn't like negative attention. So if you get the media, politicians, and our customers all on our side, like, hey, we're not the one destroying the service. That is the fault of mismanagement. That is a result of mismanagement. And I think if we tell our stories to our customers and then ultimately tell our stories to the media, I think it's going to trickle upwards to the politicians, which on the flip side of people like, well, that doesn't impact our contract. But the mismanagement has a big consequence. All our health insurance prices just went up. Your health insurance, we all talk about this, and at least in the city carrier craft, we talk about, oh, look at UPS, they get fully paid health insurance. What's stopping us from getting paid fully paid health insurance? Congress, right? That's an act of Congress.
Half of them ain't got no job no more.
Well, that's corporate greed. That's corporate greed, right? UPS profits are through the roof, and they're like, somehow we're broke. We got to lay off people, and it's like, But like, no, it's like the city carriers and the postal workers, right? Like, our health insurance keeps going up here, so we need to actually address that problem, right? Get to the root of the problem, or else we keep seeing pay cuts. And this goes out to all city carriers, right? Postal workers. What are we willing to do to actually sustain our lifestyles, right? Like I want 8 hours to be a good living wage. And I think if we offset our health insurance, that more money in our pocket will actually help us pay for our groceries, pay for our bills. And the only way to do that is not through our contract negotiations, but it's through Congress. So that's just one example. So I think
let
anyone
me
that's
be the
like,
anti.
what?
Let me be the anti.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm one of the new carriers that just got in. I got a soft mentality. I'm not really a issue type of guy. And look, next gen, I hear you guys, and you guys are probably great, but I'm not. I've got bills. I'm not trying to lose my job. And you know what do you tell? What do you tell? What do you say to carriers that are worried about retaliation, even though you and I know because we've been through the fire? But there's a lot of people that don't know. They're worried, hey, if the manager or supervisor just sees me with the three other guys that have been here for 15 years, I'm the new guy. Am I gonna how does this affect me? Talk to him.
Yeah, I think it's tough, but a little bit more. I was a CCA, uh, two. I was working a Sunday. There's 12 of us, and in my office, we get a morning office break, and that also applies on Sundays. And this was in August, so August in Florida, you can imagine it was already 100 degrees by the time it was 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, whatever time. Um, so the four of us, me and three others, we were like, hey, it's break time. We're gonna go take an office break to cool down. And our manager goes, you guys don't get breaks on Sundays. I was like, you must be joking, right? Like, you must be joking. So that we continued into our break room, into the air conditioning, and we sat down and we pulled out our break, our waters and whatever else we had. And he comes storming in. He's like, you guys got two choices: get back outside or clock out and go home. And by the time he finished go home, we already clocked out. And we're like,
Ooh.
thanks, you gave us the option. You guys gave us the option. So me and three others, we clocked out. He gave us the choice, and we went home. Um, yeah, it was crazy. And then he was telling us like, oh, what about the other 8 coworkers? I was like, well, they could have taken a break with us, right? Like they could have joined us. And that was me when I was a CCA. That was 3 of us.
Mm-hmm.
And just the other day when the contract negotiations started on February 25th, me and 15 other coworkers, we did a informational picket in our parking lot on February 25th. And we had held signs, save USPS from mismanagement, 30 for 30, first class pay, first class service. And it takes time, right? It takes time to build up the rapport, to build up the normalcy of being militant and being aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And I relate this all to everyone, right? You go to a grocery store, right? Up north is Stop and Shop, and the West Coast is Kruger. And when those grocery store workers go on strike, they're not going on strike against their store manager. They're going on strike against the corporate CEOs that don't want to pay them. So to relate this to us doing informational picket lines before we clock in, we're not going after our station managers or the postmasters, right? They're not the ones controlling the contracts. They're not the ones doing our health insurance. So it might be a little awkward. You might be afraid because you might be friends with management.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you going to tell your kids when
Mm-hmm.
your kid asks for a new bicycle or a new car, or when your wife wants to go out or your spouse wants to go on a date, and you're like, sorry, I can't afford this. And your kid just turns around or your spouse turns around and is like, well, what are you doing to get yourself better, right? And then there's 2 attitudes, right? I'm going to quit and get another job, or I'm going to remain silent. And I'm saying, stop that. There's a third option. We unite, right? A union is a collective. So anyone that's saying like I'm shy or I'm nervous, everything we're doing and everything we're advocating for is perfectly legal. You are protected by federal law as a collective to bargain for better working conditions. Union members have a Bill of Rights. So as long as you're not wearing USPS logos
Oh.
and you're not on the clock, you're safe. And what we're asking for is you could be in an office with 15 coworkers. If you have 2 people come out with you, just take a photo that day. Um, because what it is it's solidarity is what we're looking for. And this is literally why I came on JH, is to talk to rural carriers, the mail handlers, and the APW members. This is the postal service, and we need to keep the service. So I know I don't know about all offices, but some offices, like the city carriers don't really talk to the rural carriers. The rural carriers don't really talk to the clerks and stuff like that. There's like a divide type of thing. We need to start eroding that. We need to start coming together as one. Because once we start coming together as one, we start being more empowered. We start acting as a collective. So, like my example, right? I was a CCA, and only 3 other coworkers came with me into the break room, right? But we all knew it was break time, but they were afraid. And now, a couple of years later, like my entire office pretty much signed a petition to make me a steward, and they all have a good rapport with me. It takes time, I get it. And if you're brand new, you literally have nothing to lose, right? If you're a CCA, there's a 60% chance you're going to quit within the first year. So why not try to make this a better thing? And if you are a CCA or you've been hired since 2013, your entire CCA time never mattered. And if we don't start fighting for our retirement benefits, no one's going to do it. We hear it all the time. Oh, donate to PAC and we'll pay a lobbyist to try to get your non-career work time credited towards your retirement. And it's like, well, I've been hearing that for like 20 years now, right?
So
So I don't know if
let
that
me
didn't
let me
answer
chime in
anyone's
as well,
question.
because I before this unfiltered stuff, I was everything USPS for a reason, because I spoke for everybody. I didn't seclude just the one craft. So you're speaking about the CCAs, which are the assistants. The same exact thing applies for the mail handler assistants. The same thing happens for the PSEs as well. Little known fact, there were PSE tractor trailer operators for years. I was one. Think about that. So all my time is gone as well. But the moral of it is exactly what he's saying, is that there has to be, if I had that time, I'd be out of this place. Somebody just said it's not easy. No one ever said it was going to be easy, Dre. No. You got to push against the grain a little bit. He may not say it like me, but I totally agree. Once they see you're a problem, but not a real problem, they're like, oh, that's just Murphy out there doing this thing again. But
Well,
initially, they're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Right? And then after a while, they get accustomed to it. He's not trying to hurt nobody. Yeah. But you got to show, you got to start somewhere. I like that. I like what you guys got going on there. What district you in?
yeah, like
You Florida
what is it?
3? Are you Florida 3 district?
I have no idea. I'm on the West Coast, on Southwest Florida, so I think
Yeah, the districts break down
two.
in halves. Anyway, I'll
Yeah,
find out.
but no, for the folks that are saying like it's afraid, right? That's the whole thing, right? That's the whole thing. It is afraid. But once you start taking those little steps, I'm not like we're not telling anyone to do anything drastic. I know to you it might sound drastic, but once you hold the sign, you're gonna be like, oh, this sounds silly, right? Like I'm holding a sign outside. Like you go from afraid to feeling silly. And that's a great feeling. Like and that's one of the things that our union doesn't practice. APWU, the clerks, they go out there, right? They go out there and hold signs and they're not afraid. They just think kind of like, oh, this is kind of silly. But would it be silly if 100,000 postal workers did it on the same day? No.
Hmm.
Would they be afraid? The only ones that would be afraid is USPS. So we're only afraid because we're very small and we do individual actions. And for the city carriers, we don't even do any actions, right? We just went 700 days without even having a tentative agreement, and not once did we mobilize. It took rank and file members from across the country start organizing for fair contract now rallies, and like it's very hard. I spent 2 years trying to organize a union on Falmouth, Massachusetts, Cape Cod, and I did that out of my own pocket. I didn't have any unions with me, so I was making minimum wage for 2 years. And the biggest thing is the people that were fighting and they wanted the union, they knew at the end they would have a union contract with better benefits and they would have seniority. And as us, as a unionized workforce, we never had to fight for the privilege of being in a labor union. And I always felt that it's our due diligence, our duty to advance our union better than how we got it, right? We want to leave the future, the next generation, better off. Because right now, like, come on, like, we don't recommend this for anyone.
Yeah.
Um,
Hence the
so
no.
it is afraid, but if anyone wants to talk, send me an email, nextgenerationcarriers@gmail.com. We can work through anything if you're a city carrier or a clerk and you just want to talk about how to get active. Like I said, I'm blacklisted from my branch.
Sure.
Um, I created this podcast as a hobby to do something for our union, and it is a struggle. It's mentally tolling, right? It's not just scary, and you might be nervous, but it's also the stress, right? Having the stress of the managers looking at you protesting them, that's stressful.
Next generation letter carriers at what.com?
Next generation carriers
Oh,
at gmail.com.
carriers. Sorry. Carriers at you hear me type it? I type like a child. Click, 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 clack. Next generation carriers. Yeah, hopefully I spelled that correct. Um uh question, because I gotta put the pressure on you, because that's kind of what I do here. Let's go to straight to leadership for a second. If you had a James Henry sitting here, if you had a Mike Harris sitting here right next to us, and you were speaking for the rank and file, you seem like you're right there. You're speaking on behalf of the new people. You feel what the older people, because you got the gray hairs like myself. I really don't have any. You got them all. Um, what is one question you'd ask them that they probably don't want to answer? One question that you have, if you said, hey, man, I got a collective, somebody in Washington, like you said, in Michigan, like you said, give me one question that I know they don't want to answer. What do you think that question would be? Because they watch me.
Yeah, I have a laundry list of questions. I think the most important thing right now for city carriers is what are they going to do to prevent this contract from going 700 days?
I don't
Because
I don't think they have
they,
that
they,
option.
you immobilize, right? You mobilize. It's the NELC has elections, right? And Mike Cariff is running for president of the NELC, and James Henry's currently running for president of the NELC. So a lot of the people are like, oh, it's out of my control. And I think that's a cop out, right? If you start mobilizing the members and start engaging the rank and file, as if you're Brian Renfro and you're seeing Mike Cariff and James Henry start building momentum for a fair contract in the elections of the NELCs in October, that momentum is going to get carried over to the ballot box. So Brian Renfro would actually start putting pressure on himself to actually start negotiating a contract, because President Brian Renfro was just up in Region 12, that's Pennsylvania and Southern New Jersey, and he was telling the people that it's Brian Renfro and his staffers doing the contract negotiations, and they only meet 3 times a week for 5 hours at a time. And if you start seeing James Henry and Mike Cariff start developing a real rank and file movement, I think Brian Renfro, you know what? Maybe we should start meeting 5 times a week for 8 hours a day, right? Like, let's actually really start negotiating. So I think we need to do outside pressure. And I think that's a question that everyone should be asking every NALC branch officer to regional officer. What are they going to do to prevent this contract from going 700 days? And if they say there's nothing they could do, they're lying.
A lot of carriers feel like their leadership is just talking, but nothing actually changes. So I watch on my side with the APWU, and I watch you guys as well, and I speak to both of them and Corey as well. Corey's like super militant, but he's not running for president. But where's the line between talking and delivering? Because Renfro, as much as I don't care for what he has, he speaks well. He speaks well. He don't deliver, but he speaks well and he speaks professional. And then you have
Yeah.
the other that are running as well. Where's the line cross between talking and delivering? You still kind of avoided my question there. If you had them sitting, hey man, what are y'all gonna do to change this? What are you gonna do to change it? If you were sitting in Renfro's seat right now, what would you do? That me. That's me. I'm getting right on him. Look, what do you feel like is the best the best or the least we should be getting as letter carriers? Because I know we want to aim for 30. Do you, in your honest heart, believe we can get 30? Don't give me no bullshit answer. That's what I would ask them. And they know I will. That's probably why some people would avoid me. But that's a fair question. You don't want 200,000 carriers sitting there saying, we deserve 30, we deserve 30, knowing damn well that a Cariff can't do it, that a Henry can't do it, that a Renfro can't do it. Tell me what are you going in there asking for? Are you saying, hey, we can get you 35, but y'all ain't gonna get no more layoff protection? Tell me what you know we can and cannot do. That's how you address them.
Yeah. Well, that's a slippery slope, right?
It's not
Because then
slippery.
you
It's
just get
fucking
answers.
direct. You ask them, what's the
Well,
worst they're gonna do to you? Nothing.
Well,
You
I'm saying like they could answer that, they could answer that question just to get your answer out of the way, right? Like, we're gonna fight like hell and get you $40 an hour, and we're gonna shrink the steps, right? And then, like, you have to believe it or you don't believe it, because there's no actual paperwork. There's no open bargaining. We don't even know what the notes are, right?
and
So
that's
they
the
could promise you the world.
right.
And this is one of the things that everyone needs to do. They need to do the due diligence and actually study and actually pay attention to these candidates, because if all you're doing is, what are you going to get me in contract negotiation? They're going to sell you the moon. They're going to tell you whatever you want to hear. But the fact is the current structure of the NELC, there's no open bargaining, so we don't even know what they're fighting for. And I think at this point you hear all the candidates saying like, we're going to fight for the table one pay scale, and it's like, well, you guys could have done that for the last like 13 years, right? Like,
Mhm.
you could have been doing that for the last 13 years, and you guys have no game plan. There's no game plan other than, we're going to send it to arbitration. And it's like, as the labor movement, why are we Why is us union members allowing our contract to get settled by suits and ties in a third party law firm? It's already bad that suits and ties and USPS think we're just numbers. So how do we think that the suits and ties in a law firm is going to treat us any better? And I think, like I said, we need a fresh start from the rank and file, and the rank and file need to start mobilizing because that's the one thing missing. You look at the Teamsters; they got a historic contract not because they sat on the sidelines, that they actually mobilized, right?
Mm.
UAW, they mobilized, and you get public pressure, and then people are like, well, that's different. That's the private sector. Okay, let's look at the public sector, right? Teachers unions, nurses unions, they do their contracts usually around the time that schools are starting or schools are getting off or during elections because they start doing public campaigns. They start getting out there, and these politicians want want their votes, right? They want to be like, oh, I'll make you happy. I'll make you happy. Like, please vote for me. And the town or the city or the state ends up folding and they end up paying these people. But we're not even mobilizing. We're not even telling our politicians we'll take away their thing, their votes or their PAC money. And people are like, well, that's a different issue. But like I said earlier, to me, as table two, the health insurance, if we could get USPS to fully fund our health insurance, that's amazing. And then restore our retirement benefits to pre 2013 when they were paying what 0.8%, and now we're paying 2013 or after is paying like 8.4%. Like, we're paying more into our benefits than the previous generation, and the only way to change that is through Congress. So the whole contract negotiations, Brian Renfro, Mike Cariff, and James Henry could promise you guys the world, but you guys have no evidence on the receiving end to actually see that they actually follow through with their demands. So that's why I think that's a waste of a question, because they're going to sell you the moon.
I would hear that. You got to hold their feet to the fire. So here's something that I see all the time before we start to wrap this up. But this is a serious question. And actually, my video tomorrow is about this. Grievances piling up, and just like you spoke a few minutes ago, arbitration. It costs money. For those that don't know, arbitration costs money, and the money getting paid out could have been avoided if somebody just managed correctly. From your personal perspective, what is the biggest money drain that's caused by management right now? I do a video on this tomorrow. I got my own opinion, but what do you think the biggest money drain that by mismanagement is?
I think it depends on your region, but I think the vibe I would say is USPS could hire directly to PTFs, right? They have the MOUs where select cities could hire to PTFs,
Mhm.
and that starting pay is $26 an hour. So if you brought PTF status down to like here, like Florida, and you get hired in at $26 an hour, the retention rate will go through the roof, right? Like, more people will stay. You will actually have better employees. So the mail will get more accurately delivered, less overtime, less mandatory pivots and cuts. But I think the biggest thing is the forced overtime, or at this point, they're bullying people to do undertime because they just want to go home. So I think for right now, like, people talk about like Article 8's the overtime issues, but I think right now management is causing the problems of just hiring CCAs. 60% of them quit, and they could just get rid of that and hire directly to PTF, and that's should be our demand from the beginning, right? Hire directly to PTF where you establish your career, your retirement benefits. And I think that would solve a lot of problems because you would get workers that actually want to do this job for a living, and it's not a midlife crisis turnover job where they just got fired from Amazon. They come here. So
So,
I think right now, I think that's one of the biggest things, and the other thing is starting times.
ooh, but let me piggyback off your PTF thing. So that bring me back to my other question with the Cariff and the, well, Renfro's not going to do much. Cariff and Henry. I personally think that's an excellent idea with the PTS. Mailman Chooch, he was just telling me a situation about that they have PTFs. They hire directly as PTFs in his area, but that's up in Pennsylvania. Now, um, I 100% agree that if they were hired on like that, but how do you approach that with the new, the new president, whoever the president is going to be? Look, can we fight for this nationwide instead of hiring non-career? Can it be people start getting hired as career? Because if you feel as if that's going to help, they should be able to fight for that. I think that's a great idea. I wish that they hired people as PTF
Yeah,
and all across all
I
crafts.
I think it ties into the whole idea of mobilizing, right? If James Henry or Mike Carrick get elected to the NELC presidency, and they say, "Hey, we're going to start holding rallies to the public on highlighting the fact that the retention rate is terrible, right? Like 60% quit." Your general public is gonna be like, "What the hell?" And then like you tie that in with a social media campaign, a media blitz,
Hmm.
and you send that to arbitration. The arbitrators will have a strong case to say, "Okay, the union has a fair argument." Because right now, 2026 March, you turn on the news, you see PMG Scott Steiner, one of the Steiner brothers, I forget his name, is in the news saying that the USPS is broke, right, all across the media, and he's planting the seed to win his case going forward. And we're playing defense, and I think playing offense is needed, and that I think that's one of the tactics is we need to get out there to our customers, which is the politicians in the media, and we highlight the mismanagement, and you send that into arbitration. Arbitrators is literally just lawyers, right? Like people think it might be like some like once in a lifetime career, but it's just a third party law firm that gets hired on retention. And they watch the news, they read the news, and if they see hundreds of thousands of postal workers across the country rallying, that kind of puts pressure on them to be like, yeah, maybe things are kind of a little messed up over there, and we should give some concessions to the union because right now it's all concessions
I
from the union.
believe I believe that 100%. It's the court of public opinion, and I'm gonna be that guy to say it. I probably have. There's almost a couple hundred people watching. Um, I'm gonna say that half of them don't agree with each other. The worst people that are holding you back are your own carriers. They'll disagree with half the stuff that you guys do. You guys are fickle. Fickle. I get it because y'all had such different generations when it came down to moving up. Like you said, what we were speaking about earlier, one person comes in, they say, hey, this is normal. This is not normal. You should be accepting this. You shouldn't be accepting this. Um, but if
I
those
think it,
200 that are in there just came together and said, yeah, we deserve this. Let's do this.
I think
And
it starts in the workroom floor. I
mm,
think the workroom floor. I think you say it all the time, like write statements, right? Carriers first carriers, and when a carrier gets assaulted or abused by a manager, no one writes a statement. I have a perfect example of this because it just happened to me. I wish I could read this message, but I can't. Um, so the female carrier in my office I was talking about earlier, and for the folks that haven't been paying attention, I have a black female Muslim carrier, and she got brought into the manager's office, and it was behind the closed doors with the steward, and the carrier's casing 20, 30 feet away heard the manager yelling at this female carrier. And people were like, wow, what's going on there? And I was like, write a statement. That's a hostile work environment. That's a JSOV, right? Like, that's a toxic workplace. And these people are like, well, I don't want to write a statement. And it's like, yo, that's your coworker. That's your coworker. And you're too afraid to write a statement. And you still think you deserve a fair contract by sitting on the sidelines? Like, if you want to achieve greatness in our contracts, we need to start showing solidarity with each other, and that's how you build muscle. That's how we become a militant union again. It starts on the workroom floor by showing solidarity with each other, and that's the basis of a labor union. And for every city carrier or any postal worker that's listening to this, the division needs to end because the true enemy is the boss. It's not your coworkers. Your coworker is struggling just like you are. 60% of this country is living paycheck to paycheck. And it's not because of your coworker. So when you see or hear your coworker being abused by management, write that statement. When your truck is breaking down, don't be afraid. Write that up. And I tie this in because I was teaching a couple city carriers on how to fill out a PS Form 1767. And that is one of the best documents you could fill out as a postal worker. And people like, I don't want to do this because I don't want the spotlight on me. And it's like at some point you need to stand with each other because what they want, it doesn't matter if it's your union, your branch, your region, national. It doesn't matter if it's the post office management or PMG, Steiner, or DeJoy. What they want you to do is be complacent. They want you to go in, clock in, and go home afterwards. They don't want you talking to anyone. They don't even want you to be talking about the union. Because my feeling is a lot of these cats that are in union leadership positions walked into these comfy positions and they don't want to be challenged. So
Exactly.
anyone that's listening, the only way to change our union is from the bottom up, and that starts by building a rapport with your coworkers and stop being strangers. And I think that's where the true power lies. So solidarity to everyone that is working together.
Boom. Love it. Love it. Um, I'm gonna go through the comments real quick before we wrap this up. I get up very early. And we can't get rid of all the new people coming on because it's kind of my job now. I got that. If you take away my job, then I have to go back to doing real work. Let's see. We should not let the postal service we should not let the postal service claiming to be broke stop us from asking for a good contract. What do you think about that?
Yeah. But as previously stated, Brian Renfro or James Henry or Mike Cariff could say, "Oh yeah, we're going to fight for this thing," and ask for something, but we have no idea what they're going to do. Um, so I think anyone that's disgruntled should amendment to put open bargaining into our NELC constitution. That we actually know what we know what we're bargaining for, because
Open bargaining?
like JH said earlier, like how do we know Renfro is even doing any of this stuff, right? Like, yeah, I'm fighting for you guys. You could be out there having coffee and tea with these people.
It's true. It's true. I don't like that. I like the concept of open bargaining. Um, it's like, hey, I went in that room and they come out with a surprise. It's really asinine. Because a lot of the other people that all the other unions, they at least say, hey, let's be realistic. Y'all want 45 bucks an hour. I'm gonna go in there and ask for, gotta be realistic, 37. They're gonna lowball me. We maybe, if we're lucky, maybe get you guys 29 to start. But I'm letting you know this is what I'm walking in that door with. I could respect that. That I could respect. So long as they do it. Then you got Renfro when he was talking about, oh, we don't want the public involved with what we have going. You remember when he did that last time? He said he
Yeah.
didn't want the public involved. When I heard that, it's not about me. Anyway, anyway, oh man. In closing, man, I want you to go over what you would like again for anybody
Yeah.
that's in this. How could they reach you? What it is you want to do? Drill your point home because we got a couple people that are watching.
All right. So in short, this Sunday, March 15th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, various amounts of rank and file members from all across every postal union, right? Rural carriers, city carriers, mail handlers, and APW members are getting together to start organizing massive wide state nationwide day of actions. The first one is going to be in May. We're voting on either May 22nd, the Friday the contract expires for the NELC, or Saturday, May 23rd, the first day where we're working without a contract. Um, we want to leave it up to the membership to vote, because hardly ever are we asked to participate in our union. And as a collective, it will empower everyone. So that's one of the things, is on May to vote on creating informational picket lines, again, before clocking in to work. And we will have a template for our press release. We will have a petition or letters to sign and send to your congresspeople. Because if we could get 10,000 people across the country in one day to mail letters to all our congress, that's progress. That's one action item.
Wait. So what you're telling me is that anybody that's watching that may have a friend and another friend or a friend of a friend, they can reach out to John with your group, and you will make sure that they have this letter template. And all they
Yes.
got to do is put a stamp on it and sign it.
Yes.
You lazy
We will
son
make
of
a
a mothers,
template.
you need to reach out to my mans.
Yeah.
I
So
said it.
that's one action item. The other action item is Mike Cariff is always talking about USPS headquarters. So every postal worker has Juneteenth off except for the non-career workforce. Juneteenth is Friday. Saturday you could use annual leave or union LWOP, and Sunday is your NS day. So Mike Cariff has put out that we march on USPS headquarters, and I said, why not? That's the only way to actually put real pressure on our union, the bureaucracy of it, and to put pressure on USPS. So that's the East Coast. And the other idea someone was talking about was like, well, what about the West Coast? The NELC has their convention coming up in August. So August 2nd, while all the delegates are flying in and getting comfy in their hotel rooms, and California, which is Region 1, has the most city carriers. That's the biggest area of city carriers across the country. Can we create a picket line outside one of the post offices close to the convention center to amp us all up, right? To build us up and get the media on board. And people are like, well, that's kind of far away. But if you look realistically, if you take a minute, if you're a city carrier, the earliest possible date that Brian Renfro will come out with the tentative agreement is gonna be October.
What?
So yes, that will be, if realistically speaking, it's gonna be October. The contract expires May 22nd. There's a 60-day mediation period. So that's June, July. August, we have our convention. We know nothing's going to happen during the convention. Then the arbitrators are going to have to pick a couple of dates. Those dates are not all going to be on the same week of August. So it's going to be scattered throughout August, September, and October. So, like I said, if the stars align, we might get one in August or September. But historically, looking at the database of when we get arbitrations like tentative agreements, it's most likely going to be late September, early October.
So
And
you're
this is
telling
why
me
I'm
that this
reaching
man
out.
can't walk in there and come out with an agreement you believe is going to go to arbitration again?
Oh, it's definitely going to go to arbitration, right? He's not going to give the membership a watered down concessionary tentative agreement to vote on. So anyone, and you don't want to wait 700 days for a 1% pay increase, and you actually want to help the mail handlers actually achieve their collective bargaining, because how can we get a tentative agreement if they're still going through their contract negotiations? Go to nextgenerationcarriers.com/Zoom. And it doesn't matter if you're 30 days in or 30 years in. You have a voice. You are a union dues paying member. And if you're not even a union dues member, you're still an employee of this public good. And as well, you're a customer. We always use, hopefully all of us use the post office to ship our cards and our packages. So let's make sure this goes around. So like I said, it goes out to all postal workers. We need to work together, because if we don't, we're going to continue down this downward trajectory of just losing after contract. Unless someone thinks we had a good contract, that would be an amazing interview to listen to that person talk. But
You know what I just I'm talking to them directly, not looking at my screen. You know what I just heard is that regardless of whether or not you're a dues paying member, they're inviting you. Didn't call you a scab, didn't make you feel less than a person. He said unified, regardless of your status, so long as you're a carrier. That's inclusiveness. Kind of the opposite of what you hear when you go to your locals, right? Oh, you're not paying dues? Yeah, you just scab. Yeah, we're gonna work less on them. I respect that. I respect that. I respect that. I respect that. Um, because of the fact that a lot of people dropped out after this last contract. A lot of people said, you know what? I'm hurting. I can't do it. So the fact that he extended that to you as well, you gotta respect that. But you have no excuse. I'm talking to y'all. Y'all have no excuse. He says he already has the template for you. It costs you one stamp to mail something. All you got to do is reach out. I have it pinned, the next generation Zoom right there at the top. And one more time for your email is next generation.
Next generation carriers at gmail.com.
Next generation carriers at gmail.com. One more again. Reach out to, you know what? Don't make me cuss. Hey, listen, don't make me do it. They're not paying me no attention. But seriously, reach out. If y'all, matter of fact, I'm gonna have you send me one too. I'm gonna join in. And if you just happen to get a template for me and I'm able to maybe a PDF, I'm able to pin it in my video descriptions. I'll speak about it at the end of my videos up until you just send it to me and we'll make it happen. Again, that's what you call unity, not my craft. We all got the same blues. The blues is we broke. We trying to get some more money. Um, I appreciate you coming on, Mr. Murphy. You are more than welcome to come back on anytime you like. This was about you and what your group is doing. They're saying thanks, John and JH. Um, I can't read that. My eyes are hurting, bro. All these damn lights. You see the glasses, you can tell the lights everywhere. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on and Postal family that's been watching for the last hour and some change. I appreciate y'all sticking through this. Please reach out. Is your chance to change something. Your chance to change something. This man's been here for a short period of time and he's taken upon himself to try to change something. There's no excuse as to why you cannot. You see me? Oh, they said Murphy for president. Ooh, there it is. There it is.
But I want to. I'll just say a couple of last things. The letter to congresspersons, right? It's very hard because you might not think it might do anything. So the other thing is like we're going to draft a letter where you individually sign, but we're also going to draft the same thing in a petition format where if you and your coworkers do it, that's more powerful, right? Like an email, people just delete, right? It just goes into the politician staffers email box and they just go click delete. Because last year when the federal government was under attack and they came after our benefits, we did a petition to my office and we mailed it to Senator Rick Scott. He has his home office. He has his home office in Naples, Florida. It's literally about 15 minutes south of our office in East Naples.
Mhm.
So we did a little rally outside of his office. The media showed up. We had community supporters show up, and it was downpouring. And the coworkers beforehand signed on to the petition. We went down to his office to deliver it, and they're like, "Oh, well, he left at 5 o'clock," and we're like, "It's 3:30. Like, what do you mean the staffers are gone?" And we're like, "Whatever. We'll just go outside and rally." The next day, we did a priority certify right up to DC to his office, and 2 weeks later, um, he wrote an email or typed up an email response back, and it was like, "Yeah, the post office is great, but it receives taxpayer funded money." And I was like, "It doesn't, though, right? It doesn't do it." But my point is you might not feel like writing a letter will do anything. And that's why the petition comes in. You want to start building inside your office a
Mhm.
collective, right? You want to start being able to build a rapport with your coworkers. That way, when you need someone to write a statement for you because your boss is bullying you, your coworker is gonna be like, "Oh, well, this guy stood up for me to defend my benefits, so I'm gonna defend him when the boss goes after you." So it's a win-win. So we're gonna have that drafted. Um, so yeah, please, it's not just for city carriers; it's for rural carriers. We have APW members speaking on Sunday. I believe there's a rural carrier, the dude from Washington State, is going to be speaking. Um, we're just trying to form a coalition across our postal unions to actually build a militant workforce, right? Like, because what happens to the city carrier craft is going to end up happening to the rural carrier craft, and whatever we get, the APW members are going to end up getting, and then whatever APW end up getting, the mail handlers end up getting their crumbs. The post office knows how to divide, and they don't expect us to unite. But I think this is the year where we come together and start uniting. And I think postal management and our union bureaucracy is going to start waking up and realizing that we're way ahead of them. So I'll end it with that. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Trying to read some of these comments. You got a lot of people saying, uh, John Murphy for president. I'm glad they took my name out this shit. John Murphy for president. John Murphy is fire. John Murphy vice president. Murphy and Cariff for president. Then Chooch said no, him and somebody else. He's saying that Chooch and him. Anyway, they're teasing over there. But yeah, yeah. Hey, Murphy, call Cariff, ask for a job, VP. They, when you get a chance and this is done uploading, you'll be able to go through the comment section, the live chat, and you'll be able to see all the lives. Yeah, I had to put my damn glasses on. Cariff and Murphy ticket sounds good. Just message Cariff to add John to the ticket. Mailman back. Yeah, this. So I don't know. I'm telling you, that's what it says. Anyway, woo. Murphy got Similac on his tongue and doing way more than us. Woo! That's it, man. There are people feeling you, and we appreciate you for doing what you do, man. Especially as a new person, because a lot of new people they won't step up, man. So I got to give you your props for that. And honestly, I always say, hey, y'all got to keep it moving. I could be a voice of the voiceless. Let me see. Jay have him contact Rick Smith show on Free Speech TV Union show. Get your word out. You know anything about who that is? I'm looking like you can see what the hell I am.
I don't really listen to anything.
Mhm.
I try to do audiobooks while I'm delivering mail, or I'm on the phone constantly during my lunch in my break. But usually I just listen to like music from the 1990s and audiobooks. Um, so
Well, like I said, once you get a chance, go through these live comments so you can read them. All right. This is Jay. I gotta get to bed. I'm 3 hours past my bedtime. Anyway, I'm an old man. I appreciate you coming on, brother. And to the Postal family, I hear y'all. I see y'all. This is JH and Mr. John Murphy. Please reach out to him and get yourself moving, mobilized, make it happen. And we out. How was it, man?